poor woman saved the CEO's life, spent a night with him, and vanished. 5 years later, their reunion shocked everyone. The city was alive with the hum of neon lights and the distant wail of car horns. Hidden in its shadows, a young woman named Clara struggled to find her footing in the chaotic world around her. Life had not been kind to her. Her days were spent juggling menial jobs, barely scraping by to afford a run-down apartment in the outskirts of the city. Yet, despite the hardships, her spirit burned bright. Clara's determination to survive, coupled with her unyielding compassion for others, was what kept her moving forward. One fateful night, as Clara was walking home from her third shift at a diner, she heard the screech of tires and a deafening crash just ahead. The street was eerily quiet as she hurried toward the source of the noise. Her heart pounded as she approached a sleek, black luxury car crumpled against a lamppost. Smoke curled from the hood, and the faint sound of groaning drew her attention to the driver's side. The man inside was unconscious, his face pale and blood trickling from a gash on his forehead. Without a second thought, Clara pulled the door open, her adrenaline overriding her fear. She struggled to free him from the seatbelt and finally dragged him out of the vehicle moments before the engine burst into flames. The man's breathing was shallow, and Clara instinctively pressed her scarf against his wound to stem the bleeding. "Stay with me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You're going to be okay." When the paramedics arrived, they took over, but Clara lingered long enough to ensure the stranger was in capable hands. She didn't wait for thanks or recognition. She disappeared into the night as quietly as she had arrived. The man she saved was none other than Adrian Cole, the enigmatic and wildly successful CEO of a global tech empire. Known for his sharp mind and colder demeanor, Adrian had built his company from the ground up. The accident could have ended his life, or so his doctors told him when he regained consciousness. But Adrian's mind was consumed with one question: who was the woman who saved him? He remembered fleeting glimpses of her, a halo of chestnut hair, kind eyes, and a soothing voice that kept him tethered to consciousness. Yet no matter how much he tried, she remained a mystery. Security footage from the area showed her walking away before anyone could speak to her. For weeks, Adrian searched, using his wealth and influence to find her, but she was nowhere to be found. Little did Adrian know that Clara had deliberately kept herself hidden. She feared the attention his gratitude might bring. A simple life away from the chaos of the rich and powerful was all she wanted. But fate had other plans. 5 years later, Adrian stood at the pinnacle of his career, wealthier and more influential than ever. Yet, the memory of that night still haunted him. He had grown colder, driven by an unshakable emptiness he couldn't explain. On the surface, he was the picture of success, always impeccably dressed, commanding boardrooms with ease, but his personal life was a hollow shell. One crisp autumn morning, Adrian attended a charity event in the heart of the city. The foundation his company supported had organized a fundraiser to help struggling communities. Adrian rarely attended these events in person, but something had compelled him to go that day. As he mingled with the attendees, his eyes landed on a familiar face across the room. Clara. She was standing by a table, assisting with the silent auction. Her simple yet graceful appearance caught his attention like a lightning strike. For a moment, he doubted his own eyes. Could it really be her? Clara felt a chill run down her spine as she sensed someone watching her. When she turned and saw Adrian, her heart dropped. The years had been kind to him, his presence more commanding than she remembered. But his piercing gaze made her feel as though no time had passed at all. Adrian didn't hesitate. He strode toward her, determination etched into his every step. Clara considered slipping away, but it was too late. "It's you," he said, his voice a mix of disbelief and something deeper. "You're the woman who saved my life." Clara tried to compose herself, forcing a smile. "I'm glad to see you're well." Adrian studied her, searching for answers. "Why did you leave that night?" "I've spent years trying to find you." "It wasn't important," she replied, her voice soft. "I only did what anyone else would have done." "That's where you're wrong," Adrian said firmly. "No one else did." Before she could respond, the event organizer called for Clara's attention. Taking the opportunity, she excused herself, but Adrian wasn't about to let her slip away this time. Over the next few weeks, Adrian sought every opportunity to speak with Clara. Despite her reluctance, he managed to convince her to meet him for coffee. Their conversations started cautiously, but over time, Clara's walls began to crumble. She shared bits and pieces of her life, her struggles, and her dreams. Adrian, in turn, opened up about the emptiness he had felt since the night of the accident. Unbeknownst to Clara, Adrian's feelings for her had begun to deepen. For the first time in years, he felt a spark of hope and connection. But Clara remained guarded, her past experiences making her wary of letting him get too close. As the bond between them grew, the world around them began to take notice. Adrian's sudden interest in a woman from an entirely different world sparked rumors and intrigue. The media speculated wildly, painting Clara as a mysterious figure who had captured the heart of a billionaire. Clara's life was appended as journalists camped outside her apartment and pried into her past. She was thrust into a spotlight she had spent years avoiding. Adrian, determined to protect her, offered her a place to stay and his unwavering support. But Clara couldn't shake the feeling that their worlds were too different. The disparity between their lives felt insurmountable, and she feared the consequences of staying in Adrian's orbit. As Clara and Adrian navigated the complexities of their reunion, they were both forced to confront their pasts and the emotions they had long buried. The choices they made would determine whether their connection could withstand the weight of their differences, or if their lives would diverge once more. The story of their journey was far from over, and the world watched with bated breath, awaiting the next chapter in a tale of love, redemption, and the unexpected twists of fate. Adrian wasn't a man who gave up easily. With every passing day, he found himself more determined to break through the barriers Clara had built around her heart. For him, their meeting 5 years ago was no accident. It felt like destiny. Yet for Clara, the reunion brought confusion and conflict. Her feelings for Adrian were undeniable, but so were her fears. One evening, after weeks of stolen moments and long conversations, Adrian invited Clara to dinner at his penthouse. She hesitated but eventually agreed, curious to understand why he was so insistent on keeping her in his life. The view from Adrian's apartment was breathtaking, a panorama of glittering city lights stretching into the horizon. Clara felt out of place amidst the luxury, but Adrian's presence was grounding. "Why me?" she asked bluntly as they sat across from each other at the table. "You could have anyone, Adrian. Why chase after someone like me?" Adrian leaned forward, his gaze intense. "Because you saved me, not just my life, but something deeper. That night, you reminded me of what it feels like to be vulnerable, to rely on someone else. I've spent years building walls, but you broke through them without even trying." Clara's eyes softened, but she looked away. "I'm just an ordinary woman. I don't belong in your world." Adrian's voice was firm. "You belong wherever you choose to be. And I don't care about the world's opinions. I only care about you." His words struck a chord in Clara, but the scars of her past were hard to ignore. She had endured betrayal and heartbreak before and wasn't sure she could risk it again, even for someone as genuine as Adrian. As their relationship deepened, Clara began to open up about her past. She told Adrian about her childhood in foster care, her struggles to find stability, and the series of dead-end jobs that had shaped her adult life. Adrian listened intently, his admiration for her resilience growing with each story she shared. For the first time, Clara felt seen, truly seen. Adrian wasn't interested in fixing her or pitying her. He valued her for who she was, scars and all. Slowly, Clara began to trust him, allowing herself to imagine a future she had long thought impossible. But not everyone was as accepting of their relationship. Within Adrian's company, whispers spread like wildfire. Some of his board members disapproved, viewing Clara as a liability. The media latched onto the narrative of an ordinary woman, entangling herself with a powerful billionaire. Paparazzi followed Clara's every move, their relentless scrutiny leaving her feeling exposed and vulnerable. Adrian did everything in his power to shield her, but the pressure was relentless. One evening, as they sat together in his apartment, Clara voiced her fears. "This isn't sustainable," she said, her voice trembling. "The media, your board, they're never going to let us live in peace." Adrian reached for her hand, his grip firm but gentle. "I don't care about them. Let them talk. Let them judge. What matters is us." Clara searched his eyes for doubt but found none. His conviction was unwavering, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that she was dragging him into chaos. The breaking point came when Clara received an anonymous letter, a scathing attack on her character, accusing her of being a gold digger and threatening to expose fabricated details of her past. The letter shook her to the core, and she realized that her presence in Adrian's life was putting him at risk. Without telling Adrian, Clara made a decision. She packed her things and left a note, thanking him for everything but insisting that they couldn't be together. She couldn't bear the thought of being the reason he lost everything he had worked for. When Adrian discovered the note, he was devastated. His usual composure shattered as he searched for her, only to find that she had vanished once again. Clara retreated to a small town hours away, determined to start over. She found work at a local bookstore and kept her head down, hoping to escape the chaos of her previous life. But every night, she thought of Adrian, the way he had looked at her, the promises he had made, the love she had walked away from. Adrian, meanwhile, refused to accept her departure. He used every resource at his disposal to find her, but Clara had covered her tracks well. Months passed, and the emptiness in his life grew unbearable. One evening, while attending another charity event, Adrian overheard a conversation between two attendees. They mentioned a small-town bookstore and a kind woman who had recently started working there. His heart raced as he pieced together the clues. It had to be her. When Adrian walked into the bookstore, Clara was shelving books. She froze when she saw him, her heart pounding as he approached her. "You didn't think I'd give up, did you?" Adrian said, his voice soft but unwavering. Tears filled Clara's eyes as she struggled to find the words. "I thought I was doing what was best for you." "You're what's best for me," Adrian said, stepping closer. "I don't care about the noise, the rumors, or the challenges. I care about you. And I'll spend the rest of my life proving it if I have to." Clara's walls finally crumbled as she fell into his arms, sobbing. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe that love, real, unconditional love, was possible. But their journey was far from over. The challenges they faced were still waiting in the shadows, and their reunion would send shockwaves through both their lives. The world hadn't given up on tearing them apart, but Adrian and Clara were determined to face whatever came their way, together. Adrian and Clara's reunion marked the beginning of a new chapter, but it wasn't without its hurdles. As word of their reconciliation spread, the media frenzy reignited with greater intensity. Paparazzi swarmed the small town where Clara had been living, disrupting its quiet charm. The townsfolk, initially protective of Clara, found themselves thrust into an unwanted spotlight. Adrian acted swiftly, leveraging his power and connections to put an end to the harassment. He hired a private security team to ensure Clara's safety and filed lawsuits against the most invasive media outlets. Despite his efforts, Clara couldn't help but feel guilty for the chaos surrounding them. "Adrian," she said one evening as they sat together in the cozy living room of her modest home, "I don't want to be the reason your life is turned upside down." Adrian took her hand, his gaze steady. "Clara, my life was already upside down before I met you. You've brought me something I didn't even know I needed. Purpose, warmth, love. None of this matters without you." His sincerity left Clara speechless. She realized that, for Adrian, love wasn't just a fleeting emotion. It was a commitment, a choice he had made despite the challenges they faced. In the weeks that followed, Adrian made a bold decision. He stepped down from his role as CEO, appointing a trusted partner to take his place. The move shocked the business world, but Adrian was resolute. "I've spent years building an empire," he told Clara. "Now, I want to build a life with you." Clara was overwhelmed by his gesture. She had never imagined someone like Adrian, powerful, successful, and admired, would choose her over everything else. Yet his actions spoke louder than words. He sold his penthouse in the city and purchased a quiet estate near Clara's bookstore, blending his world with hers. Together, they began to rebuild. Clara expanded the bookstore, using Adrian's support to add a cafe and a reading lounge that became a beloved community hub. Adrian, for his part, found joy in simpler pursuits, helping Clara organize book events, mentoring local entrepreneurs, and spending quiet evenings by the fireplace with her. Their love grew stronger with each passing day, and as they planned their future, Adrian made a heartfelt proposal. On a sunny afternoon, beneath the sprawling oak tree behind their home, he knelt before Clara with a simple yet elegant ring. "Clara," he said, his voice trembling with emotion, "you saved my life in more ways than one. I've never been more certain of anything than I am of you. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down Clara's face as she nodded. "Yes," she whispered, her voice breaking. 1,000 times yes. Their wedding was a small, intimate affair, attended by close friends and the people who had supported them through their journey. Adrian's family, initially skeptical of Clara, had come to embrace her after seeing how profoundly she had changed him. The ceremony was held in the backyard of their estate, surrounded by blooming flowers and the soft glow of fairy lights. As Clara walked down the aisle, her heart swelled with a mix of disbelief and joy. She had once been a woman struggling to survive, but now, she was walking toward a future filled with love and possibility. Adrian stood at the altar, his eyes fixed on her with an expression of pure devotion. When they exchanged vows, there wasn't a dry eye among the guests. Their love story, born from chance and forged through trials, had finally found its happy ending. In the years that followed, Clara and Adrian built a life they were proud of. They welcomed 2 children into their world, a boy and a girl who inherited their mother's kindness and their father's determination. Together, the family thrived, their days filled with laughter, love, and the occasional adventure. Clara often reflected on how far she had come. The woman who had once saved a stranger's life on a cold, lonely night could never have imagined the journey that lay ahead. But she had learned that love, true, unwavering love, was worth every challenge, every risk, and every moment of vulnerability. And so, as the sun set on their estate, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Clara and Adrian sat hand in hand, watching their children play. Their story, though marked by trials and tribulations, was proof that even in the most unexpected circumstances, love could find a way to triumph.